For sure. Well, hey man, it's great to meet you. I want to begin our conversation with living through the heavy of, like, we're going on the 4-year anniversary of the pandemic. How did you get through the pandemic and how did it subsequently change you?
That's a great question. So, you know, um, our primary focus has been real estate for about 2 decades now. And being real estate agents, when they first shut things down here, they immediately shut down the local government. We had no ability to sell homes, to do anything really. And we've been through a lot. We went through the 2008 crash, rather unsuccessfully, you might say. And so immediately we recognized, I mean, this could really get crazy. It took them maybe 2 weeks to decide that it was what they would call like an essential service, which probably translates to, they need tax revenue and that kind of thing to keep functioning as a government or whatever all things go into there. People need homes, of course. And so we were able to continue functioning with certain protocol in place or whatever, but largely to the same extent, that we had been. Also about a year or so into the pandemic, I started a coaching business where I'd been coaching people for a long time, but moved into coaching executives and real estate agents, which is, online Zoom type communication or phone. And so that was very conducive to that change as well. So everyone was talking about pivoting, right? So we actually did make some pivots. And one other thing is, at that point, we'd been about 17 years in the real estate fields, real estate agents recognized as top, 1% in the nation for about 5 years at that point. And what happened in a lot of industries, I'm sure you saw this too, was kind of a flight to quality, they called it, where people who were established, when things get really weird, it's like, it's cute that like your nephew just got their real estate license or whatever, but like you want to go to somebody that can navigate like some interesting things going on. It gives you the highest probability, right? Because that's all we're ever doing in life. So we did reap the rewards actually of that, where our business increased. So there's a few different aspects there.
Absolutely. Well, but the thing that's overwhelmingly a part of most people's answers is the silver linings. There were so many things that people took advantage of and just, business boomed. I mean, even from a
Yeah.
mental health standpoint, which relates to coaching, people needed more help, realized their time was temporal, lots of those things, you
Yeah,
know.
absolutely. There's always a
So,
silver lining, and people are afraid to look for it sometimes. It's
yeah.
like we feel like we need to suffer and that it's wrong to look for the hidden advantage in any situation when really that's our job. We might not wish for what's happening, but we really need to look for the best way to take advantage of what's happening for ourselves and for those we love.
For sure. So let's get to the heart and soul. You've mentioned a few things already that you do, but let's get to the essence of what you do for a living. I'm going to put you in front of a bunch of third graders. It's career day. And one of the kids says, "Hey, what do you do for a living?" How do you answer that child?
Well, to I help people to find what it is they're looking for. I help people to really find the ability to just listen to themselves and understand what it is that they really want. Sometimes life it's been said it's a balance of or choice between what we want right now in this moment and what we want most. And so sometimes we might need to do something right now that doesn't feel like what we'd like to do at this moment because because of what we really want most. So an example, of course, would be, if I was talking to third graders, I would talk about whatever their priorities, whether it's like they have a job where they, take care of the dog or give the dog a bath every so often, or they, help their dad with a chore or something like that. Those type of priorities are doing some homework, whatever they're doing in third grade these days. And help them to understand that they need to do these things so that they can have more time for themselves and to do the things they like with their friends, and kind of making that connection, helping people really to understand that connection about doing what we need to do so that we can do what we want to do.
So what did you want to be in the third grade? What was your dream to grow up and become?
Well, probably around third or fourth grade, I wanted to be a professional skateboarder.
Right on.
Yeah,
Man,
and it was a passion of mine as a kid. So
that was the one thing I was bespeckled about when I was out there. I was out in Santa Cruz in the late 90s. And I grew up in a small town outside of Kansas City called Liberty. And I remember there was a couple guys that had a half pipe in their backyard. And
yeah.
they were the ones. They were on a mountain of cool that no one could attain to. Band wearing, the whole thing. And when I got out there, because they used to have Thrasher magazine and all of those things. I mean, that was a part of my culture, Spicoli, that whole thing. So
Love it.
being out there where it was all at, I can only imagine that, like, I remember watching Z
Lords
Town.
of Dogtown.
What's that?
Lords of Dogtown.
That's it. Yeah. And they were just talking about the similarities between surfing
Yeah,
and skating, and that how that whole culture kind of became to be, Tony Hawk and
yeah.
those dudes. And it's fascinating
Pretty
because
magical, pretty magical time. And to grow up just where I had any residual like of of that. Like my uncle, I was really blessed. He got me into surfing when I was around 9 years old, and skateboarding maybe a little bit early, right around that same age. And he had been around a lot of those guys like Stacy Peralta, and had grown up in that generation in the 70s. And it was really a gift looking back. I grew up in Laguna Beach, in Southern California, which is just an incredible a town. No one, people used to not know where that was.
yeah,
Everyone was, or kind of has heard of it because of, TV show, whatever. But growing up in that little town with that type of surf and skate, influence was just incredible. And,
yeah.
art was a big thing as well. And so it's cool because it gets you, and for me, it was a way to be in touch with something that I was really passionate about, and just gets you thinking in more creative ways. So it's a great foundation.
The thing that's so fascinating about those guys is that they weren't doing this for anything other than they had the passion to do it. And I have a jazz radio show, so I'll interview people that were back in the day in the 50s in
Oh
the
yeah.
heyday of jazz. And I'm like, did they know? Did Miles, did Coltrane, did Stan Getz, did all those cats know what they were doing? Was there's this like thing where they were like, yeah, we're hitting a pulse here, and this is what we know we're doing. But they weren't. They were just gigging, they were jamming, they were going to the studio like
Yeah.
these dudes. They were just wanting a good wave, or they wanted a good, venue to go skate in, and that was it.
It's fantastic. It's funny because you're what you're saying is so true. It makes me think of I think my wife Brooke showed this to me. It's Rick Rubin, incredible music producer, and
Yeah.
incredible, and he was talking about that art. Within art can be a lot of different things, right? I like the quote that all art is self-expression, but not all self-expression is art.
Yeah.
But he talked about that art, which is something I guess you would say that other people are appreciating too on some level. It's all created first. We create it for ourselves. And he's talked about how like huge productions in Hollywood and the music industry and all kinds of industries, you get all these professionals together that are like the best at whatever, and you try to do something, and when it just absolutely doesn't work, oftentimes the problem is that they're trying to create something that they think other people will like using a formula or whatever. And sometimes that does work, financially or whatever, but art has to be created first for ourselves.
Yeah.
So it's like your show, what I do with coaching, with real estate, or whatever we do, we have to do it for ourselves first. And thereby we give the best, to other people. And that's one of the things that anyone who's just around me or talks to me for a few minutes is going to get some taste of that, just because that energy and that authenticity, when we align with what it is we really want, then we're able, to have this inspiration. Like when we focus on becoming the best versions of ourselves, which means not like what other people think is the best version of ourselves, but like what we really think is the best version of ourselves. Like that's something we should all be striving for all the time, is to be creating the highest version, like our highest version of ourselves. And just doing the things that align with that. And when we do that, it's like creating art for yourself, because all you have to do is, if we commit to becoming the highest version of ourselves and just building the best man or woman that we want to be, then all we have to do is show up for other people, because that individual does those things, right? Like you don't have to be like, do I do this or do I do that, or be all mechanical. You just show up as that person, and you're great with your kids, you're great with your communication, all these things. So, but it starts with doing it for yourself first, just like art, if that makes
Yeah.
sense.
No, that's totally makes sense. So, who's been a hero for you? We're talking a lot about heroes and big names. Who's been that for you?
Oh my gosh. Well, my father absolutely was like the biggest hero in my life. And he was just a very he was a very passionate, like very selfless man, and did so much for other people. And he was also able to align with the things that mattered to him. So he grew up actually in the 60s, early 60s, surfing when it was just so new. He was in Palos Verdes, and he was actually the original president of the surf club, or captain of the surf team, when they formed it, the very first year that they had it. And his mom ran a club that was women, the girls, in their club. So like the kind of girls like surfish club or beach club, and then the guys surf club or surf team. And the memories and the stories of that time are just incredible. But my dad went to Vietnam and got just an incredible amount of medals, which having more perspective now, I understand that he just went through a whole lot. You know, he had 4 Purple Hearts, he had Bronze Star, Silver Star, just commendation medals. And I have actually some of them right over here in the shelf. And that it talks about, there's actually descriptions of things that he did, you know, people's lives that he saved, like, you know, getting a wounded man to safety and then pinpointing a sniper location and taking out the sniper. You know, I mean, stuff that's just out of the movies. And it was really a miracle that he lived, because just so much happened and he saw so much, you know, action. And so I always wanted to be like my dad. I grew up, my grandma had these, they stayed in really close communication the whole time he was in the army. And so she put these together, these like photo books and like books with different memorabilia or whatever. And so she had these multiple albums. I mean, they should be in a museum. I have them here of just him and what they were, you know, in Vietnam, doing pretty wild stuff, you know, back in 1969. So anyway, he was just incredible. He had a heart like that I've never seen, as far as his ability to just be there, you know, for people. So my dad for sure was my biggest hero, as you can tell.
Yeah, that's why
Yeah.
I was just watching a show last night, and someone mentioned that in Vietnam around that time there was no birds flying because they had to eat them. And it was just those little things that you don't think about
Yeah.
that happen during
Yeah.
that time, you know.
Kind of, you know, the residual impact of all of it. It's just hard to fathom.
Yeah, it is. It's wild. So
Or
let
to
me ask you
us.
this. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So let me ask you this. If you can meet one person alive right now on the planet that you find fascinating, who would it be? Who would you love to meet and talk to?
Meet one person, and oh, there's so many. I think that Tony Robbins is a big one. I think that he's certain people and their ability to inspire change. You know, he was somebody that early on, I his teachings changed my life, just opened my perspective to a way. And I didn't. It's interesting, like connecting the dots, looking back. You know, I didn't have any idea that it was happening at the time. I just thought it was really inspiring, really cool stuff, and I believed in the potential of some of it. But a lot of times, just somebody planting seeds, you know, is enough to get you, you know, open your mind. It's like the mind of man, once stretched by an idea, never regains its former shape. And so that was the case with him. And I've actually been at various events where he spoke and was a few feet from him, and I could have hung out probably and, you know, and met him. But I think that one-on-one, there's just a lot of things that really resonate with the way that he thinks, the way that he approaches life, and the way that I do actually. And so it's hard to find those kind of people, you know. And
Yeah.
it's cool, like this kind of conversation right here. A lot of things that are available now, we can connect with like-minded people, you know, hopefully in positive ways across the globe. And that's just, it's so powerful, because a lot of times the people that are closest to us, or some of those people in our lives, aren't you know, we're all at different stages of evolution and development. We on our own paths, you know. And so there's points where sometimes the people who are closest to you, or some of the people that you love, might not, your path might not resonate with them, especially, you know, if you have a trajectory like this, you know. So
Yeah, for sure. That, you know, and we are in a fascinating time. I hear Joe Rogan sometimes say, this is the most fascinating time to be alive for humans, and
yeah,
the exponential amount of technological growth and human innovation. It's just sometimes it's mind-blowing to think about all of the things that we're doing,
yeah.
you know.
It's like
So
you just gotta look for the, and it's so easy to look when something's powerful. It's like social media, you know. It's like it's a powerful tool. It's depending how you want to use it. And a lot of folks, it's still relatively new, and a lot of folks, you know, 5, 10 years ago, who were just messing with it, or folks from, you know, previous generation, they would kind of it was like, whoa, this is crazy. You get reactions from people and different things. So a lot of people have like kind of felt like they got burned by it, just put it away. And I'm not saying whether it's good or it's bad, but there's so much opportunity, like you're
yeah,
talking about, with regards to what's available. And I really just encourage people to stay on the positive side and focus, you know, always looking for the hidden advantage and benefit to these things that are going on. Because it's really easy to just kind of like let ourselves get overwhelmed
yeah,
by it. Like you have to learn. It seems like in my line of work is like a new app every other day and that
yeah.
kind of thing. And if you just expect that, it becomes easy to deal with it. But if we resist it, you know, it's like it's our resistance to things that makes them difficult. A lot of times, it's not the actual thing that we're resisting.
Uh-huh. That for sure. Well
Uh,
said. So
think,
what's the motivation for you every day to wake up, to do your work, to help others, and to also evolve as a human?
yeah. Well, you know, I feel that at this, I've come to believe truly that we're all given riddles in our lives, like specific riddles. They're for us to identify and for us to solve. And, there's the reality is that there's no meaning inherently in anything except for the meaning that we bring to it. It's like part of what we do is the meaning that we bring to what happens, for example. Is it good or is it bad? And it's interesting because this is a mindset and a paradigm that, a lot of people have a problem with. It's like, and finding an empowering meaning, finding an empowering meaning, really, like, so many people live in chaos because they have chaos, in their heads. And it's the reality is once you get clear on what your purpose is and like what it is that really matters to you, it's amazing how clear everything becomes. And, I gotta say, Joe, it's like, I resist most nights. Some nights I can embrace it when I'm tired enough or just I get to a certain point. But the reality is, like, I resist going to bed to a certain degree every night because there's so much that I'm so passionate about. I have a book it's finished. We're just going through edits and doing some stuff. It'll be coming out this year. It's called Undeniable. And just, about kind of my journey and some things I picked up along the way. But it's, that's something I'm really passionate about, doing these interviews. I'll do quite a few of these this year, and just really feeling truly called to, spread the light and spread inspiration, because it all comes back to aligning. I mean, this is the thing that people, a lot of times we feel like the concept of like personal development or bettering ourselves, there's like preconceived notions that sometimes we don't even realize we have about things. And so we resist something like that, when in fact, it's like, it's the best addiction. Once you figure it out, the best addiction that you can have is, call it personal development, because at the highest level, personal development is just listening to your own heart. So we're talking about like what it is that you really want. This is what gets me out of bed. It's like when you tie the meaning, it's like, it's all how we link pain and pleasure. So if every Monday it's like, it's Monday and I got to do this, and like we create this resistance and we get habitually addicted. People are emotionally addicted to things that, for positive or negative to different degrees, that we don't even realize. We think it's actually like an event that's happening, but all you have to do is watch somebody for long enough. And if on Monday morning they're really stressed out because they were super busy for all the weekend and they didn't get enough sleep, so they're stressed out. And then the next Monday you see them and they're really stressed out because they didn't do anything all weekend. All they do is sit around. And then the next Monday you see that and you start realizing, whoa, this person has the same emotional kind of range happening, and they're justifying it with like whatever's going on. And so I had to learn at a young age, one of the riddles that was given to me is like, why do some people stay in stress? Why do some people always often tend to experience anxiety? Why is it when you know somebody for 40 years, so this is family a lot, or 50 years, why do you see recurring patterns of like the same thing happening? Like, do you ever notice that, whether it's the money that they tend to make, the financial problems they tend to have, the levels of stress? And don't get me wrong, things happen, right? We don't have control over everything. But when you see the same type of people being brought into people's lives, anyway, so getting yourself addicted to the emotions of, what it is that you really want, and aligning what I want to do right now with what it is I want most. Like, I go to the gym every day for 2 hours because I love going to the gym every day. And then the residual is any benefits that come, health-wise. And so getting addicted to that process, and having so many projects that, things that I'm passionate about. So
Yeah. No, I love it. No, that's great. And you're totally right. I mean, that is the right addiction to have. Going through
yeah,
that evolutionary process of getting better. I mean, there's nothing better than that, because there's
I
so
feel like
many
you have that.
people.
You probably have that a bit too, like
Yeah.
you with your work. And
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you're just always trying to get to that better and newer version. And I think sometimes there's a resistance to change. People are like, "Wow, they changed." It's like, that's okay. That's what we do. And if you really are ambitious and you want to get to another place and learn more about this life, there's infinite amounts of possibilities to do it. I mean, if it's positive change, not like
yeah,
we're talking about a drug addict, we're talking about
right.
somebody that just legitimately wants
Yeah,
to feel the
yeah,
fruits of their own existence and the existence around them. Go for it. Do it. You know?
absolutely. And it's interesting, real quick, just because you brought that up. When it comes to addiction, like one of the keys I help people with various addictions, sobriety, that kind of thing. A lot of times that'll be like a side effect of other stuff that we're doing. But when it comes to that, one of the keys is not just, you're probably familiar with this concept. One of the keys to anything that you want to stop doing is not just stopping doing it and then just like there's this void. You have to fill it with something. And so like the positive habits, that's the thing about it. Like addictions might sound like a strong word, so we can just say habits, but like having those things that are positive, because when you really look at your life, if you track kind of like what you're doing, even if you're entrepreneur, salesperson, and you're like, oh, it's so crazy. In the end, there's like a very consistent like rhythm to what you're doing, or there should be some kind of consistent rhythm
Yeah.
to how you're doing things. And so it's like that just becomes a pattern that and it's amazing. The concept of your subconscious being more powerful than your conscious is like, we can see it because they have all type of different psychological proof, but your subconscious will, once they become habits, will just carry you through. That's how you can like walk to the coffee pot in the morning and be still asleep while you like make coffee or something, or like driving and you're like, wait, am I here? You know, because it's
Yeah.
like, it's an automatic habit. So
Yeah. Well, it's that
yeah,
whole 90-day thing. I'm a big fan of that because after that 90 days, there is a period where it's like it's in your blood and
yeah,
it makes it easier.
absolutely. It's
Yeah.
amazing what you can do in 90 days, 120 days. It's
I
just
know.
like change, because you can change your life in an instant, but by that point, you can like recompose, like I help clients recomposition their body in
Mhm.
90 days, or someone who doesn't think they can buy a home in this, higher price market. A couple months later, they own a place that works beautifully for, for them and their family. You just have to stay open. A lot of times people, Joe, don't you find it's like people are afraid to
Yeah,
just want something because they might not have it. And I get it because it's being let down sucks, but it's just I link more pain to not trying. And it's all about what you want, right? Like not trying for things that you don't want because it sounds like a good idea, or because society tells you or other people tell you. But like if it's in your heart, and like I said earlier, it's like personal development at the highest level is just hearing what's in your own heart. It's not like learning a bunch of outside tricks and other people's books and like methods. Like there are things, blueprints and recipes and those things that work, but really it's like connecting with your heart because that it really guides you where you need to go.
for sure it does. So at the end of the day, everyone has a perception of you, family, friends, clients, colleagues, but you run the show. What's your perception of you? Who do you think you are?
Somebody who just really is grateful to be here in the first place, just to be here, honestly grateful for every day. And I love life. And I feel like anyone who's near me picks up on that. So inspiring others, um, to live a more beautiful life for themselves, whatever that means, and helping people to see what's possible just by being, being that example in my own life. And it's like that momentum, right? It's like that cycle of belief of
Yeah,
just here's a belief, the action I take, and the result that I get. And it's like that creates a feedback loop. And it's like either an upward spiral or a downward. So always just, moving towards that light and expanding that in every way that I can. I could probably come up with a shorter version, but something like that.
I like that. I like that. No, that's perfect, man. So if anyone out there wants to hire you, learn more about you, get your book later on, it's coming out this year, anything about your world, where's the best place to go?
Well, easy is Instagram, which is at Hinchman Kasey, and then also my website, kaseyhinchman.com, and it's Kasey with a K.
Right on. Kasey, this has been great, man. Thank you so much. I
Thank
appreciate
you,
your
Jeff.
story, your time, and best of luck with everything.
Thank you so much. Let's do it again.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Take care.